This video is brought to you by Blinkist. A verified or indisputable fact, proposition, principle. Truth is the property of being in accord with fact or reality. As one of the fundamental core principles of everything I stand for and everything I fight for on this platform, it being mostly a channel for historical divulgation, the truth, namely in this case historical truth, has been a constant chief element of my research. The main quest in my life has been to discover the truth, and my personal feelings about what I find are absolutely relevant. That's because not only it's fascinating as is, but historical truths help us understand what has happened in the past and how these occurrences have shaped the world we live in. We search evidence-based data, and feelings don't change it. Real, genuine knowledge of the past can illuminate, deepen and enrich the present. Historical truth is the building block of a future, successful society. This is why today I decided to challenge publicly the very idea of the erasing of the past, historical negationism or denialism of facts, an ideology which I would now define endemic. You see, an argument is deductively valid when the truth of the premises guarantees the truth of the results. If any given individual is offended by a historical event and decides to modify it, effectively introducing feelings into the equation, then the premises begin to give no rational grounds for accepting the conclusions. That's what is called a fallacy. A politically correct past is a fallacy. An idea germinated in a current socio-cultural space, which I often refer to as the agenda on my videos. But the practice of removing or altering the past according to one's desire, whether it be at the behest of a ruling elite, a regime, or a loud minority, isn't a new phenomenon, historically speaking. In this video we'll see how real historical facts have been changed, doctored, banned, or altered in the past, whether it be the exaggerated numbers of battle reports for patriotic and propaganda reasons, done by several medieval rulers, the complete destruction of anything that goes against a carefully fabricated lie, such as the Aztecs' complete rewriting of their own history, or Imperial Japan trying to hide Unit 731, all the way to the damnatio memoriae used by Roman authorities. If you change the past, you control the present. We'll also see how real historical facts are being changed in the present, how historical truth is under a systematic extensive attack fueled by corporate money, which is permeating both the educational and edutainment infrastructure, particularly in Western society within the Anglosphere. It's an attack to our collective memory. We'll talk about how power has been given to those who have demonstrated incompetence in handling even the most basic facts and have zero interest in applying any sort of guard against selective bias. How there is no my truth or her truth, but only one absolute truth. And I say this in defense of evidence-based and reliably sourced factual reality. History is not politically correct in its very nature, and it doesn't care if it offends. The archives that enshrines the deeds of billions upon billions of members of our species cannot and should not be modified according to what may be acceptable by modern sensitivities, because our present will become someone else's past and will be remembered for how we treated it. The removal of historical truth by replacing it with a doctored, inoffensive, shapeless approximation of an ethnically fluid amalgamation of occult nothing deprives the people of the very enrichment of shared factual knowledge. It infringes on the very rights of all human beings that live, ever lived, and will ever live. It leads to social, moral, and societal decay. It's damaging to you and to your children, no matter what side of the political spectrum you choose to be. Moreover, who has the moral authority to alter anything based on personal feelings and political bias alone? Anyways, a scholar, an erudite, wouldn't have that moral justification, let alone a diversity consultant. Jada Pinkett Smith making a historical documentary is the equivalent of the milkman performing life-saving heart surgery on you. If you love historical accuracy, even if we may disagree on some level, you and I are on the same side. I know exactly how you feel whenever you see a historical character being either race-swapped or a historical event being completely misrepresented. You complain, they call you racist, and then you type this. Noble ones, this is a war of intellect, and it requires accurate speech. Otherwise, even though you are correct, your arguments will be easy to counter. What we fight for requires precision. So let's look at a common counter-argument that is usually presented whenever we complain about the rewriting of history. You will be met with this. But historical revisionism is part of the very method by which historians work. As I will demonstrate on this video, this argument is not only mute but completely inappropriate, since what we are complaining about is the woke revision of history, which is a completely different thing. Apples and oranges. But to be fair, whenever people say that they hate historical revisionism, they usually mean they hate historical denialism, to be precise. Up to a certain extent, as long as it's done in a factually based way, motivated by nothing but the search for historical truth, historical revisionism is a tool used by all historians. Established, accepted, and traditional views about historical persona, historical events, phenomena, can and should be challenged upon the introduction of new contrary evidence, the presence of new technology, or even the application of newly available methods to the long-existing materia. Modern and politically motivated historical revisionism, however, which is the only form of historical revisionism we are complaining about, is a completely different beast, and it has nothing whatsoever to do with the methodology used in professional and academic discourse. But does the end justify the means? Inclusivity, representation. Anne Boleyn, second wife of Henry VIII of England? Really? The end does not justify the means. This is not true representation, because it's based on a lie. You want to see real representation? Watch this video of mine, minute 10:08, then call me a racist. But now I'd like to take a moment of your time to mention the kind sponsor that made this video possible, Blinkist. Blinkist is this really cool app that allows you to understand the most important things from either non-fiction books or podcasts you're interested in the very space of just 15 minutes. On Blinkist you'll find a variety of content, over 5,500 titles within 27 different categories. Now what's really cool is that it's bite-sized content, so if you're a busy professional, you're a student, you just don't have a lot of time, Blinkist is gonna be perfect for you because you can connect it to your everyday activities. Say that you are cleaning your room, maintaining your highly accurate medieval replica, jogging, exercising. You can give more value to your routine tasks because you can listen to the audio files as you are doing these things. I've been using the app. There are a few books that I would suggest, and particularly one. Let me show you. So as you go into my library section, you'll see that there is this book called 10 Caesars by Barry Strauss. It's a book that tells you about the most salient and important aspects of the first 4 emperors. So I decided, hey, why not looking for books within the app that can give me more information and perhaps inspire me for making more videos about this topic. I highly recommend it, go check it out. Also, Blinkist has a new feature called Spaces. This feature allows you to create a space for your friends or family, or both, and in this space you can recommend books, recommend titles, share titles. But what's really cool is that your friends and family that you share this with, well, they don't need to have a premium account to access the books you share. Tap on the Spaces icon at the bottom right corner of the screen, tap on Create Space, type in the name for your space. You can then tap on Share and Create Space to immediately send an invite to whomever you like, or just tap on Create Space only and send an invite later. You can now tap on Invite to invite more people and start sharing title recommendations with them. If all of this sounds awesome, then check this out. Get 25% off your Blinkist annual premium. Start your 7-day free trial by clicking the link in the description box. So make sure to check the link in the description below, and big thanks to Blinkist for sponsoring my video. Unfortunately, this whole idea that many truths exist and should all be respected is starting to take foot, even within academia. And talking about academia, today I ran into this article on National Endowment for the Humanities, written by an American historian by the name of James Morrill Banner, Jr. All history is revisionist history. Now, I suspect that this is the article that everyone who says, aha, but all history is revisionist history, so you shouldn't complain, is using as a basis. Because they're literally repeating the words written on this article, ad verbatim. Now, to be transparent, I don't know anything about the author of this article. I don't know anything about his political position, his allegiances, and maybe it's better that way. Because what we're going to do now, we're going to read a few passages from this article. And since I don't know anything, I can't have any preconceived idea or bias. I'm just going to judge this article on the basis of what's written on it. And believe me, I've already found quite a few massive red flags. But I am giving the professor the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he's not using this to defend woke revisionism. And perhaps all the rest of his publications are masterworks. I don't know. I'm just reviewing this one article. Let's go. The professor says, mere facts don't have meaning. They must be given that meaning by human beings. And those human beings very well may disagree among themselves about their meaning. He then proceeds to present his eloquent and well-articulated defense of historical revisionism. And then we reach a paradox. At the end of the article, after having presented his positions, he says, we should celebrate as well as accept that fact. You said that mere facts have no meanings unless we humans give a meaning to them, and that human beings may very well disagree. So according to what you said at the beginning of the article, why should I accept and celebrate the facts you presented? That does not give me space to disagree. Accordingly, it's a contradiction. But if no subject is immune from reconsideration, what about the widespread conviction that history can and should be objective? In the sense of being an accurate and full account of what actually occurred. It's likely to surprise most people that today's historians believe that it can't be. On what grounds do they believe that? The first reason, both existential and epistemological, grows from the impossibility of knowing all that has happened in the past. Personally, this feels like an elaborate, weak defense for historical revisionism. I agree with the fundamental idea that yes, we can't know everything and therefore we need to constantly reshape and remodel the things we know. More progress into the field, more research into the field will develop new ideas and theories. But that does not mean that history and historical research cannot try to be objective or as objective as possible. In fact, we should strive to be as objective and unbiased as possible. So the simple fact that you can't know everything doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to know as much as possible whenever you're trying to delineate historical events. Then the professor goes on to talking about the storming of the Bastille in Paris, July 14th, 1789. Yes, we have some witness accounts, but we can't know for sure if what they're remembering is right, because there is some bias in selective memory. You might have the perspective of someone from outside the Bastille, someone inside the Bastille, people belonging to different political parties, and of course, all of this is bias. And at the end of this he says, the result is that what historians know of anything in the past is only a part of what occurred, what's witnessed and what's reported. This is really strange because it makes it sound like all historians do is review verbal reports or written records. But that's not how you do history. You need to overlap these reports with archaeology, the reviewing of the material goods, literary evidence, cultural evidence, what the surrounding cultures and civilizations say about that event, statuary, iconography, stelae. That's how you pinpoint three-dimensionally any event in the past. If the historical record says that in a specific date there was a battle in a specific location, and then we excavate and find remainings of helmets and swords, we date them and then the dating perfectly overlaps with the written accounts, we now have a much stronger case. And then if you find an iconographic representation of the battle, and it looks like the same, it looks like the same hill, it looks like they're wearing the same types of armor, you now have a much clearer picture and a much stronger case. And depending on what historical event we're talking about, this can extend into many other fields, mathematics, astronomy. Professor says we should keep in mind too that there is nothing novel in the interpretative variety of historical knowledge. I absolutely agree. In fact, the interpretative variety of historical knowledge started with freaking Herodotus, the father of history, if you really want to pinpoint it. And possibly even earlier than that. But whoever uses these words to justify what modern revisionism does is the king of apples and oranges. You should go open a street market. Where enforced orthodoxy exists, there lies totalitarianism. I would agree with that, but I would also add the same applies to cancel culture and removal of freedom of speech. Same totalitarianism. And here is the part I take most issue with. A democratic culture in which different views and different truths are allowed to coexist and share billing in the public forum of thought ought also to be seen as a glorious storehouse of ideas. Professor, since you say that the debate is part and nature of historical discussion, then I'm sure you won't mind me debating this. Noble ones, mark my words, whether it be a democracy, a republic, a monarchy, there is absolutely nothing glorious about supporting and pushing many different truths. And personally, I also think that even the author of this article doesn't believe what he's saying, since he literally put the word truths in brackets. Fundamental truth is not dialectical, where by dialectical we mean a synthesis or integration of opposites. The sun is either 92% hydrogen or is not. You're either here or you are not. The ancient Romans existed or they didn't. Both contrasting statements cannot be true at the same time because they are mutually exclusive. Either I'm right and the ancient Roman Empire existed, or she's right and the ancient Roman Empire didn't exist. It's not a matter of, well, the Roman Empire existing is my truth and the Roman Empire not existing is her truth. There is only one truth. And I think the major problem with this whole idea of my truth, your truth, their truth is of a linguistic nature. They use the word truth to mean belief and opinion. That's a misnomer. No matter how many brackets you put into it, truth isn't an opinion. I might think that what I have is the truth and perhaps I'm wrong. That doesn't change fundamental truth. It only changes my perspective of it. In fact, even when we don't have historical documented data, the truth is still there. We're just not aware of it. And before people mention quantum mechanics, I'm talking about historical truth. I'm not talking about quantum physics. The concept of multiple truths interferes with the truth. They can't coexist, just like light and darkness cannot coexist in any given physical space. That's because darkness isn't a thing of its own, it's an illusion. Darkness, by definition, is the lack of light. Likewise, a lie isn't its own truth. A lie is the lack of truth. And this doesn't only apply with the realm of historical accuracy. Let's have a look at mathematics. If your truth is 2 plus 2 equals 4, and another person's truth is 2 plus 2 equals 5, he can incorrectly call it truth as much as he wants. It doesn't change the fact that you are right and they are wrong. And on the same note, if I believe something that I think is the truth, but then I'm proven wrong by actual documented evidence, then I'll be more than happy to say, you were right, I was wrong. This is the real truth. Rather than building up this defensive facade and saying, no, that's your truth and this is my truth and you need to respect it. In fact, if you keep talking, you're racist, homophobic, blah blah blah, I will cancel you. That is totalitarianism, Professor. I would like to now introduce briefly the concept of damnatio memoriae, which is a modern term in Latin to describe something that the ancient Romans absolutely did, particularly during the imperial period. This is a very striking type of past erasure, whereby portraits, inscriptions, and material legacy of all condemned individuals would be destroyed. We have a very blatant example of this practice when it comes to actual emperors and their predecessors, and we can see a very basic pattern. Vilify the individual you wish to replace, then replace it with yourself represented in a positive light. This created an immediate form of contrast which ingrained more efficiently the newly doctored negative identity into the minds of the people, at the same time benefiting the recipient of the replacement identity. It was a form of social control which verted on the removal of physical evidence connected to condemned individuals. You see, societal memory, differently from individual experiential memory, is communicative in nature, because it transcends the life of single individuals. Therefore, the best weapon to attack societal memory is to remove freedom of speech. If you can't say it, you can't share it. If you can't pass it on, it will be forgotten. To give you an example, Sulla destroyed all the commemorative monuments of the victories of Marius, and then replace them with his own. So what they did was establish a negative narrative, remove every possible evidence to contrast what you're establishing, and then replace it with your own narrative. Even though damnatio memoriae was a rather flamboyant and physical way of altering or doctoring memories, in a way I believe it was less dangerous than what's happening today. When a book is doctored, people don't even know that there was a change in the first place. And when they read, they don't know that the words they're reading don't actually belong to the original author. You cannot fight an enemy you can't see. Also, when it comes to mass psychology, the key to establish a false memory is its significance to the group. Hence, Cleopatra was the right pick, not the Kandake. In my opinion, if we allow the values of the present to manipulate the past, we risk to enter a circle of doom projected to our immediate future, as each successive present will then reshape the past according to their values, which, make no mistake, will change. If the foundation of a civilization is solid truth, then future generations will be able to build upon it. If instead the primary constituent of the foundation of a civilization is subjective, ever-changing personal truth, that very foundation will be shaken every single time a new truth replaces the preceding one. That foundation will inevitably crumble. That is why I say, when it comes to the defense of historical objective truth, no matter the consequences, hold the line.
Still my heart, the moment I